Hey my loves, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to today's tutorial. On today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make this waistcoat you're seeing. If this is something you're interested in making, kindly keep watching, and also please subscribe if you've not subscribed. Like and leave your comment in the comment section. And thanks to all who subscribed as well. Now without wasting much time, let's get right into the making of this waistcoat. So we are going to be starting off with our back pattern. Now I first marked a line on top to serve as my starting point. And from there I went ahead to mark my shoulder measurement, half of my shoulder measurement. After I took my neck width, which is 3.5 inches, and then the neck depth of 1.5 inches. After I just drew a curve to get my neckline. For my shoulder sloping, I came down by 1 inch and then I went ahead to mark my armhole depth out. Now this armhole depth, you can get it by dividing your bust measurement by 6 and adding 1.5, or you can divide your shoulder measurement into 2. So after I did, I joined the armhole depth to the shoulder and then I connected it to the neckline just as you see me doing. So I divided my armhole into 2 afterwards, and then I marked the midpoint out and came in by ½ inch. Now on my armhole or chest line, I marked quarter of my bust measurement and then I connected it to my shoulder line. So moving on, I went ahead to mark my bust line, my waistline, and the length. Now for the length, you can make yours a little bit longer. I didn't do that to mine because I was trying to manage my fabric. After I finished, I went ahead to mark the points out. The next thing I did was to insert quarter of my waist measurement and then I added 2-inch allowance. Now because you are going to be adding a dart, you are supposed to add the dart intake to the allowance, and if you want a little bit of ease, you add either ½ inch or 1 inch to make it a little bit free. Now the dart for the back is going to start on the armhole depth or the chest line. That is why I extended the line. Now I went ahead to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurements and then I joined it together. So on my waistline, I'll be going in on both sides ½ inch and then on the other side ½ inch, and then I'll be connecting it to my chest line to get a triangle shape. Now that will be all for the back, so we'll go ahead and cut it out, and then we are going to be using this back piece to cut our front piece. So for the front, I started off by leaving 1.5 inch allowance on the center front because of the button we are going to be inserting, and then after I ruled a line on top to serve as my starting point, and then I just placed the back on it, starting from where the button allowance is going to start from, and then I marked the width of my neckline. And then the depth of my neckline for the front, because of the V in front, I came down by 8 inches. You can decide to extend yours, but I made mine 8 inches and then I connected it to my neckline. So I extended my bust point line and my waistline. And then from there, I measured what I had on my waistline, excluding the buttonhole line, and divided it by 2 and then marked in order to get the V shape in the front. So I extended it downwards by 5 inches. If you want yours to be a little bit longer, you can extend it by 6 or more. And then I connected it. So from the side, I came in by 1 inch and I connected it to the point that we made and then joined it to the center front as well to get a triangle that is in front of the waistcoat. So afterwards, we just cut it out. We are going to be repeating the same process we did for taking the darts for the back onto the front. So you take half of your nipple to nipple measurement. From the center front, you start on the buttonhole line. You mark it, you extend the line, and then on the line, you mark half on both sides and you join just as you see me doing. For mine, I made the mistake of just connecting it to the middle and then completely ignored my nipple to nipple measurement. Don't be like me. So the length of my sleeve is 6 inches and I added 2 inches for allowance. And then the crown is 4 inches. So on the crown, I measured 8 inches and then I added 2 inches allowance for joining. And then on the length, I took my around arm and then I added 2 inches allowance as well. So from there, all I did was, using freehand, drew a curve to meet the 8 inches that I marked on my crown, and then I just joined it to the length of the sleeve. So from there, I just cut it out, and then I used the first piece to cut the other piece out. You can actually cut them together to save time. So for the pocket cover that we are going to be placing on the front, we are going to be measuring 5 inches by 6 inches and then we'll cut it on fold just as you see me doing. So afterwards, we are going to be cutting lining pieces for both the front and then the back as well. So we are going to be adding interfacing on the wrong side of the pocket cover and then the lining of the front pieces as well to give them a bit of structure. And we are going to go on our sewing machine and sew the sides of the pocket cover and turn it inside out. So afterwards, I just transferred my darts onto my lining pieces and pinned them down. So after you are done sewing the darts on the main piece and then the lining pieces, we are going to put the right sides facing each other and we are going to sew the neckline, the sides and then the down parts as we are going to be turning it inside out. Now for the front parts, the other part of the front where we are not going to put the pocket cover, we are going to sew the neckline, extend it to the button line and then round it to the side. So while we are on our sewing machine, we are going to be hemming the sleeve. For mine, I left 2 inches allowance, so you just fold the 2 inches in and then you fold in a little bit like ½ inch and then you iron it down and you sew over it. So for me, I close my side later. So you just take the lining piece and then you fold it over to meet the main fabric, right sides facing each other, just as you see me doing. If you don't understand, you can look at what I just did and then you can just repeat it. So we are going to be putting our pocket cover on the other side of the front. So I came down by 14.5 inches and then marked it down. Now you can do this part right after you are done sewing your darts. So you notch the center of the pocket cover and then you put it on the mark that you made and you pin it down just as you see me doing. Now when you are sewing it, you don't sew it together with the line. You lift the main piece out as you see me doing and then you pin it down and you sew on it. Now after you are done sewing, you are going to be flipping it over and then sewing on it again. So you top stitch over it in order to ensure that it stays down, it doesn't open. Now joining the shoulder, you open the front and then the back piece like you see me doing and then you put them middle to middle, right sides facing each other, you pin down and then when you are done, you flip the lining to meet the other lining and then you pin down. So lining to lining, fabric to fabric, just as you see me doing. and then you sew over it. This is to ensure that it gives it a neat finishing when you're done sewing. Now we are going to be closing the sides up. So you mark the allowances that you left. Now I'd advise that because we turned everything inside out, when you're adapting your pattern, at least you add ½ inch to any allowance that you are going to be adding on the bust line and the waistline to cater for when you're turning it inside out. So this is to ensure that you don't have any shortage of allowance when it's time to close it up. For mine, I left 2 inches allowance, and because I didn't add any allowance for turning it inside out, I ended up having 1.5 inch left after everything. So we are going to be closing up the sleeve and then attaching it to our waistcoat. Now at this point, you can either choose to leave it, not add a sleeve to it. You can have your waistcoat without a sleeve. Coming up, I'll be showing you how you can close it. And if you want to attach a sleeve, you can also do it, just as you see me doing here. So after everything, I went ahead to press my coat. Now I decided to add my buttonhole before attaching my sleeve. Now this is actually my first time making my own buttonhole, and oh my god, it was a disaster. So for the interval, I used 3 inches for the interval of my buttonhole, and eventually, even though it was not perfect, it came out really well for the buttonhole. So I had some excesses, loose threads, and then I used my lighter to just clean it off, as you see me doing here. So after I finished, I pressed it down and then later on took the sleeve off. So if you want your waistcoat without a sleeve, this is how I close mine up. So you can use cotton bias to sew the armhole. Now this brings us to the end of our tutorial. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.